One experience I'll never forget when I was a little kid. A silent movie company came to La Jolla. There were bathing beauties, frolicking on the beach. But the impression they made was that they came from some other galaxy. For one thing, the makeup, it looked like they all had their faces painted orange. Well, if somebody at that moment had come along and said, look, you're going to grow up and be just like that, and you're going to have that orange stuff on your face, and you're going to play make-believe in front of a camera, I'd have thought they were totally out of their minds. But this is what I've been doing for about 40 years now, on a lot of locations in a lot of different parts of the world, and I love it.
He's, to me, the ultimate movie star. You know, there's nobody more handsome or more gentle or romantic on the screen, I don't think. For all ages.
He represented, I guess, everything kind of strong and reliable and solid.
I guess we all resented the fact that we all didn't look like Gregory Peck or had that wonderful voice of his.
He's a beautiful survivor. Anybody that's been a star that long, made that many good films, has got to be very special.
He's a tall, wonderful-looking man, but also he has a big soul.
He can give a performance that will make an audience think. He can touch them.
His ideals have somehow remained strong in him, and he's never let the career completely overtake that, and has the audacity, if you will, to believe that he can change the world by virtue of the things that he does and the things that he says.
Miss Jean Louise? Miss Jean Louise, stand up. Your father's passing.
For some reason or other, I had quit college, and I was driving a big Union Oil truck around San Diego. Bought myself a little Ford Roadster, and life was pretty good, but it came home to me that if I was going to do anything at all, that I was going to have to do it for myself. So I went to Berkeley, and that was an awakening. Students from all over the world, a wonderful faculty. There were sports. I was in the 8-oared crew. And then the matter of girls. I found I could have a girlfriend and could be accepted as a regular fellow. I came alive. When this fellow asked me to be in a play, I was very green and awkward.
He always had the feeling that he was embarrassed being up in front of all these people. I saw him in Anna Christie. And this is this tall, lanky, skinny kid, charmingly clumsy.
But as terrible as I was, it attracted me. Later on, I reasoned out why. Because my childhood was a little bit unstable and I was jerked around here and there, it was hard for me to communicate with people. I was a small-town kid from La Jolla. There was only one of everything in La Jolla. There was one doctor, one grocery store, one hardware store. My father, he had the drugstore, and he was a good-looking young fellow, and he was a catch. And my mother came along, beautiful young lady from St. Louis, and they hit it off. But it didn't last very long, and my mother, she and I went back to St. Louis. And we lived in a very curious, slightly run-down boarding house. And I can hardly believe now that I was actually at the age of 6 selling newspapers down on the street corner where the trolley car went by. We came back to La Jolla. My mother went to work in Los Angeles, and I lived with this wonderful grandmother. I got a dog whose name was Bud, and for a couple of years, I was totally happy. But we didn't have the habit of conversation at home. I never remember once ever sitting around a dinner table with my family and having ordinary kind of family conversation. So I think that I reached out to that audience to try to make contact with them, to try to make friends with them, and to tell them a story that I wanted to tell.
So we graduated, and the next time I saw him, actually, was at the neighborhood playhouse in New York.
That was a great discovery, to study acting with Sandy Meisner. One of the things that was good about it was that you learned that you have to take a chance on making a total jackass out of yourself and overcome that inhibition. I didn't have fantasies about being up on the silver screen. I had stage ambitions. When we finished the 2-year course at the neighborhood playhouse, there was what we called a demonstration play. And then it was the custom for all the students to run back to the school the next morning and hope that the phone would ring and they would get a call. The phone did ring presently, and the receptionist nodded at me and she said, "Guthrie McClintock wants to see you." I ran down 4 flights of stairs along 46th Street to 6th Avenue, 4 blocks to 50th and 6th, slid into an elevator, shot up to the 8th floor, ran down the marble hallway. I dashed in and skidded to a stop in front of his desk, and he was still talking to the receptionist at the neighborhood playhouse. He started laughing, and I thought he was going into a fit. Well, when he recovered, he said, "You've got the job." And I had few lines, but that didn't matter. I was with a great company. I was with pros.
I met Greg many, many, many years ago, before anyone knew of Gregory Peck, when he was on the stage. And I was like 17 years old, and I don't know how I got there, but I was brought to Guthrie McClintock's house, and Greg was there. He was this beautiful creature, enough to sweep any girl off her feet.
Well, after my 3rd Broadway show, my young wife and I found ourselves stony broke, and it struck me that I might pick up a little spare change by making a movie. And I made the movie, which was a clinker. And I didn't want to go back to New York leaving a bad picture on my record. And I'd sort of begun to like movie work. So I decided to accept another offer. It was a biggie.
I have been instructed to thank you and to say that it will not be necessary for you to trouble yourself again.
Oh, it's no trouble at all. Just a simple matter of changing and dressing.
Even that will no longer be required. Thank you.
If I ever run across it now, I see a very skinny, very sincere young man who is absolutely putting his heart and soul into every scene.
Dear Lord, let me have patience and forbearance where now I have anchored. Give me humility, Lord. After all, it was only thy merciful goodness and thy divine providence that saved the boy. But they are ungrateful, and you know it.
But I'm here to tell you that sincerity is not enough. You have to have salt and pepper. You have to bring experience from life. You have to have ideas of your own. You have to have humor. But I got by, and it was a big hit, and I got an Academy nomination. And we went back for the opening, and there was a sign about a block long and 40 feet high on Times Square. And, you know, it seemed like a few months before that I've been walking around, you know, without 20 cents in my pocket. And it was all changed. I became a picture actor.
I think you know everyone here, Dr. Edwards.
No, not yet.
Oh, this is Dr. Peterson.
How do you do?
Dr. Edwards.
Hitchcock was a master of film technique, and I was quite green at that time, fresh from studies with Sanford Meisner and the method. So I had to do it from inside.
It's just all terribly simple. It isn't gussied up with 15 shadings and sly little looks and all of that. It's very pure. It's like a light that's on.
And that was not Hitchcock's way. He wanted the right turn, the right reaction, as he had visualized it sitting in the office. I was an amnesiac, crazy in the head.
Something's happening.
What is it?
I wouldn't have come back as Dr. Edwards if I hadn't known that he was dead.
Your guilt fantasies were obviously inflamed by your duties as a soldier.
Stop it. Babbling like some phony King Solomon. Sit there full of half-witted double talk that doesn't make sense. If there's anything I hate, it's a smug woman.
Most memorable about that picture was Ingrid, who was a fantastic Swedish beauty and had just come into her own.
For what it's worth, I can't remember ever having kissed any other woman before.
In most cases, the role that he was playing, the kind of solid, honest man, is pretty close to the truth. If you take a film, though, like Duel in the Sun, where he played Lute, that's a character that is against his character.
But it wasn't difficult. I borrowed a lot of mannerisms from a cousin of mine, Stretch.
Pearl, I think I'll try to get you one of them newfangled bathing suits. She swims real well, Ma. Where'd you learn, Pearl?
He was kind of a devil with the ladies.
You varmint!
What you getting your bristles up about, Pearl?
Basically, it's play acting when you do a Western. It isn't too far from the playing you did out in the backyard when you were a kid, playing the good guys and the bad guys.
Why don't you leave this one alone?
What's the matter, Judge? You got her earmarked for yourself?
Aside from the fact that I was playing a rascal, I worked on horsemanship, and I had a wonderful teacher, Ralph McCutcheon. And he taught me a lot of trick mounts and dismounts, and I was pretty nimble in those days.
Come on, push! Whoa. Give me a good push.
Jennifer Jones had just played Saint Bernadette, and I had just played a saintly young priest. Selznick had a lot of mischief in him, and I think he got a kick out of putting these two in roles that were a little bit raunchy for that time. I never thought of him as evil, although he did shoot his own brother, forge checks, gamble, and didn't really treat Jennifer as a gentleman should. I think the audience rather likes bad guys because they come up with surprises. And in a way, they're easier to play. The real trick is to make a character who has got all the noble virtues interesting.
I'm Jewish, and you don't take Jews. That's it, isn't it?
I never said that.
If you don't accept Jews, say so.
Don't raise your voice to me, Mr. Green.
Otherwise, what?
The gentleman's agreement dealt with the subject of anti-Semitism in America. Everything was not so perfect when people, because they happened to be of one religion, were shunned or had to suffer from prejudice. These things are not characteristic of the best of America. And we went at it hammer and tong, dealing with an area where we could stand some improvement.
You really do think I'm an anti-Semite?
No, I don't,
You
Kathy.
do. You've thought it secretly for a long time.
No, it's just that I've come to see that lots of nice people who aren't, people who despise it and detest it and deplore it and protest their own innocence, help it along and then wonder why it grows. People who'd never beat up a Jew or yell kike at a child. People who think that anti-Semitism is something away off in some dark crackpot place with low-class morons. That's the biggest discovery I've made about this whole business, Kathy. The good people, the nice people.
Elia Kazan is a feisty, brilliant director, and I think there are times when he would have liked to have seen me punch a hole in the wall. Well, I showed my feelings in a different way.
In a sense, he reminds me of Hank Fonda, because neither of them are known for the great explosive scene. They give a simple overall performance, and believe me, simple is not only better, it's more difficult.
I tried not always just to walk on as myself. I tried to characterize, and I think I have somewhat. But I've always been aware that what the audience wants to know about is really you. How you cope with the situations that are given to you. Even if you're playing a character very far from yourself and wearing a beard and a putty nose and using an accent, they're interested in the person, I think, more than they're interested in the skillful actor. So you try to be both. I think I was about 34. I went and had a talk with Henry King and Darryl Zanuck, and I said, I think I'm a bit young to be a general. Henry said, no, I know what you can do, and you trust me.
Now, I don't have a lot of patience with this what are we fighting for stuff. We're in a war, a shooting war. We've got to fight. And some of us have got to die. I'm not trying to tell you not to be afraid. Fear is normal. But stop worrying about it and about yourselves. Stop making plans. Forget about going home. Consider yourselves already dead.
This was a fellow who would stretch himself to the limit and then beyond.
What's the matter, sir? I don't know. Are you sick, sir? Arm, something wrong. It won't work. Stop it! Stop it! I'm right here, Frank. It's okay. It's all okay. Throw the tower. Fire, where's the key?
Maybe my mother and father decided that I was having too much fun in La Jolla, or that I needed discipline. So they shipped me off to Catholic military boarding school. That took a big adjustment. From the moment we got out of bed in the morning, we knelt down to our prayers. We marched to the wash basins and brushed our teeth in unison. And then when they laid the military on top of us, they really had us coming and going. One of the things that you didn't do there was quit anything once you'd started. You went to the finish. That's the kind of man that I admire. A man who will make the necessary sacrifices, whether it's to bomb the ball-bearing works in Frankfurt or get the wagon train across the plains. The Gunfighter is one of my favorite pictures of all the pictures I've made. And the director and I liked the idea of this kind of period mustache because it was a Western of the 1870s. And Spiros Skouras and Darryl Zanuck were in Europe. They came back and saw the first 2 weeks' rushes, and they went through the ceiling, and they said, you can't put an ugly mustache like that on a young fellow. Don't you understand, he's a leading man, he's a sex symbol. Women don't like mustaches on men. But it was too late for them to have everything shot over. It would have cost them too much. But I never saw Skouras as long as he lived. But what he didn't say to me, that damn mustache of yours cost us millions. But we were happy because it was authentic.
What about this? Ain't some of you fellas in charge of this donkey?
Eddie don't mean no real harm, Mr. Ringo.
Then let Eddie keep his big, ugly nose out of my business if he don't want to get it slapped.
He comes into town hoping to see his wife and kid and go off with them somewhere and stop being a gunslinger and live in peace.
But you gotta say you'll talk to me about it again.
I will.
Well, we can make it, honey. We can make it.
Well, the fates were against him. He put too many notches in his gun.
I drew first.
You don't have to do me no favors, Pappy.
Keep your mouth shut. If I was doing you a favor, I'd let him hang you right now and get it all over with. But I don't want you to get off that light. I want you to go on being a big, tough gunny. I want you to see what it means.
These men had the kind of character we think of as the best of American character. The self-reliance, courage, the stoicism, practicality, and in their way, they were romantic, too. That character I played in The Gunfighter, I often thought, well, under different circumstances, he could have become the governor of Texas. He just didn't have the right start in life.
I first saw Gregory Peck when he was making Captain Horatio Hornblower.
Fires your guns bear! Full battery reload! Well done!
Rail Walsh, a wonderful action director, was doing a scene with Greg and Virginia Mayer. And Greg stood where he was and said, look, that scene was not right. I can do it better. And I remember Walsh saying, no, it's all right, let's get on with the action. But Greg stood his ground, and they had to go back. They'd already moved the camera, I remember. And they had to go back and do the scene over. And I was so impressed. It was wonderful.
What the devil is that, Mr. Longley?
Forgive me, Captain, but I was about to tell you that I require passage to England for myself and my maid.
Not in the Lydia.
Do you suggest that we swim home?
I suggest that your ladyship cross the Isthmus of Panama and embark on a ship which has frills and fancies enough for women passengers.
How much longer are we going to pretend? You must know I love you. Why do you fight against it?
I'm married, Lady Barbara.
I think I have a different perception of my dad than most people. When they see him on the screen, they see a strong, heroic figure. I see the other side. I see a man of enormous sensitivity. Sometimes a sensitivity that's so great that he masks it with the strength that he has. People, even subconsciously, pick up on that vulnerability and that sensitivity, and they like him all the more for it.
I owe Greg a great deal, if not everything, because Stars had approval of script and also approval of co-stars or co-actors. And Greg could very well have said at the time, well, you know, just a little dance, and perhaps we better get somebody more established.
Willie Wyler told me that the princess was going to be played by an unknown named Audrey Hepburn. So I thought, well, he must have found a marvelous girl. Well, he found one of the great film stars of all time.
Your Highness?
Yes, what is it? There's a scene in Roman Holiday which takes place at the mouth of truth. And there's this legend that if you're telling a lie and you put your hand in there...
Did he bit off? Just before the take, I said to Willie, would it be too corny if I put my hand in there and then I pulled it out like this, which is an old shtick that Red Skelton used to do all the time.
I had not been told, nor did we rehearse, about what was going to happen in the scene. And so we played the scene, and Greg put his hand in there, and and the scream I let out was good and proper, because it was very funny, but it was also very scary.
It's rare, a romantic light comedy that also has a genuine love story that made people want, for this unlikely pair, to have a happy ending. Well, it was impossible.
I don't know how to say goodbye. I can't think of any words.
Don't try. Still, you go out with a feeling that we're both better off for having had this brief romance.
There's something lovely which William Wyler told me not very long before he died. He said, did you know that Greg, during the picture, insisted that you be co-starred with him rather than my name being under the title? I don't know if people realize with what generosity he did that.
My agent said, well, why should you do that? I mean, you've worked for years for this. I said, George, don't think that I'm being so all-fired generous. This girl is so great, she'll probably win the Academy Award in her first performance, and I'll look like a damn fool if my name is up there on top of the picture by myself.
So in my first picture, not only was I co-starred, but there was an enormous gift which he gave to me. Apart from being in a beautiful movie, it gave me an Oscar.
Which of the cities visited did Your Highness enjoy the most?
Each in its own way was unforgettable. It would be difficult to... Rome. By all means, Rome. I will cherish my visit here in memory as long as I live.